Previously on Ill-Equipped History. At 29 years old, Kennedy won the election for U.S. Congress representing the working class Boston district. Almost immediately after election, he began his vision for the higher office.
It's the mutually assured destruction.
So, November 22nd, 1963, but it was mentioned in one of the documentaries that Dallas was referred to as the City of Hate. At 11:38 a.m., Air Force One arrives at Love Field Airport in Dallas. This is the Secret Service's worst nightmare. He was moribund, meaning that there was no chance of survival upon even getting to the hospital.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, trying, because, what else do? You have to at least try.
So we've got a president that's just been pronounced dead, and we have a shooter on the loose. Welcome to Ill-Equipped History, where two best friends who are not equipped to tell you really anything about anything tell you a story in history. And I'm joined by Morgan.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I am very cozy right now. I'm ready to get into a weird frame of mind. I've got my chocolate milk. I'm ready to go.
Chalky milk.
With chalky milk. With just the tiniest little shot of Bailey's in it. Just because.
Nice. Because.
I'm a grown up.
I put Bailey's in my chalky milk. Oh, well. You look way cozier than me. I look like I'm confused about what weather it is because I'm wearing a sweatshirt, and what you can't see is I'm wearing knee-high compression socks and athletic shorts.
You know what? You have every right to be confused about the weather because it is very confusing right now.
It's confusing. I have my thighs out for ventilation, but my sweatshirt on for core warmth. My hands. My sun's out, ham's out.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
Gotta air out your hams.
Should that be our next sticker? Sun's out, hams out.
By the way, but we have new stickers.
Woo! And I did put one on my cup. They fit wonderfully. They're nice. They're vinyl and they're round, so they are smaller than the last ones.
And Emily designed them, and they look amazing. I really, really, really enjoy the design.
If you look closely, you might not be able to see it as clearly in pictures as in person, but we have on the background our nice little our episodes, little themes of our episodes, and then we have a goose with a little spinning hat. And it says just goosing through history.
Just goosing through history.
Just goosing, which is what we're doing.
Yep. We're goosing real hard this episode.
We are.
For sure.
And it's such a dark episode. We needed this.
We need a little levity to go into the very, very dark subject matter. So,
I guess without further ado, we'll get into the meat of today's episode.
Okay. This is a very, very tragic story.
Yes, it is a tragic story. And this, where we left off at, and I'm sure you heard on the intro, was at this point where we stopped, Oswald has left the depository building. JFK has officially been pronounced dead publicly. And Oswald is on his way back to his house. He reaches his house. So, without further ado, I do believe we have a killer to find.
Let's solve the case.
Okay. Well, let's not promise anything.
We are ill-equipped.
We are extreme. Watch us, two ill-equipped people, solve this 60-year-old murder. Okay, anyway. So, let's back it up just a little bit to 12:34. Now, remember, Kennedy was shot at 12:30, pretty much on the dot. So, at 12:34, the police enter the Texas School Book Depository. And they initially thought that the shooter was still in the depository. I mean, that's a fair statement. Mm-hmm. They knew from witnesses and, kind of where shots were coming from that they were coming from that building. So the police did a roll call and found that Oswald had been in the building at the time of the assassination, but was now missing. And that made him a suspect.
Yeah.
Because I was having a hard time putting together, well, yeah, Oswald was in that building and he left. And then they went straight into, there's a giant manhunt for Oswald. How do you know it was him? And I think, and that was really the only piece of evidence that I could find that linked them to Oswald from this standpoint, is that he was not there when he was earlier. So that's suspicious. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of arresting everybody that was suspicious.
Yeah, I honestly, I kind of understand. Because you don't know what this person's going to do. So they're trying to find out anyone that's even the slightest bit suspicious so they can narrow down the suspect pool.
Exactly. So they enter the school book depository and they go up to the 6th floor. And if you're looking at the building, it is the window below the little ledge. You'll know what I'm talking about when you look at it.
Okay.
To the far right in the corner. 6th floor up, far right. They did find the gun. It was a rifle. And they found 3 shells that had, been shot. And this was the biggest manhunt the country had ever seen up until this point. And apparently even the guy, if you remember to last week's episode, the guy that took Oswald to work that day, saw him leave the building and went across the street, but then that man lost him in the crowd. So that was at 12:34 when they entered the building. Mm-hmm. Now at 1:15, probably a little over 45 minutes later, reporters were listening to police scanners to kind of figure out what the hell was going on. Mm-hmm. And they heard a citizen come over the radio and report that an officer had been shot. So what had happened was there were some witnesses to... Oh, no. I have a note that says read witness testimony in my notes upstairs. I'll get to that point and then run upstairs real quick. So reporters were listening to the police scanner. And witnesses saw a man shoot an officer, and then that civilian ran up to the police car and used the police car's own scanner to call in that an officer had been down.
Oh, wow.
I really need... I need this. I'm going to run.
Okay.
You're going to see more flailing.
Run fast.
So, I present to you evidence.
So that's the newspaper you were reading?
I got this on the streets. Yes, this is... Okay, guys, I will post a picture of this newspaper. I was straight up reading this thing like it's, I don't know, the Washington freaking Post in a coffee shop just out in the wild. Excuse me if I'm out of breath.
She just ran, y'all.
And I am not a runner.
I'm not either.
I don't run For obvious reasons. Now I wish I didn't have a sweatshirt on. Okay. Where are you at? Okay. Witness testimony. Here we go. Gotta get a drink. So, at approximately 1:06 p.m., November 22nd, 1963, this was from, Helen Louise Markham, and she was at a cafe.
Okay.
That was in eyesight of this. I was standing on the corner of East 10th and Patton Street. Nope, never mind. She was standing on the street. Okay, let me just read this, okay? At approximately 1:06 p.m., November 22nd, 1963, I was standing on the corner of East 10th and Patton Street waiting for traffic to go by when I saw a squad car stop in front of 404 East 10th, about 50 feet from where I was standing. I saw a young white man walk up to the squad car opposite the driver's side, lean over and put his arms on the door of the car for a few seconds, then straighten up and step back from the car 2 or 3 feet. At this point, the officer got out of the squad car and started around in front of the car, and just as he got even with the left front wheel, this young man shot the officer and the officer fell to the pavement. I screamed, and the man ran west on East 10th across Patton Street and went out of sight.
Wow.
And that officer, unfortunately, was killed.
Oh, man.
He was 38-year-old Officer Tippit.
Oh, that's so young.
And, yes, he was also very good looking. Here's a picture of him.
Oh, wow.
Very handsome. Handsome young man. Everyone loved Officer Tippit. But 6 witnesses would later go on and identify Oswald as the killer of Officer Tippit. And some witnesses saw him running from the scene with a pistol in his hand, but then lost sight of him. So Oswald has now moved he's gone to his house, and then he left again, and somehow ended up on 10th Street talking with an officer, and then shoots the officer.
Which is close to the assassination site, right?
I don't think it's that far away.
I guess I'm just confused, because if he went home, but he carpooled that morning, but then went back home and went back out without a ride in just a few minutes.
Yeah, he did. I believe he rode a bus for a short amount of time.
Okay.
But then the bus that's what it was. The bus got stuck in traffic. He hailed a taxi and was able to get back home, and then somewhere close to 10th Street.
Okay.
And Oswald's jacket was later found at the scene, close to the scene where he was seen running away.
Gotcha.
Now, I have this next section called Found and Detained. This is just... Okay, so he's on the run again. He ran into a shoe store called Hardy's Shoe Store. And the shoe store employee who was actually interviewed in one of the documentaries I watched, his name was Johnny Calvin Brewer, and said that a young man walked into the shoe store, acted really weird, and then left quickly. With everything going on, he was like, I'm going to watch this guy. Mm-hmm. So apparently the guy had looked scared and that he had been running. And then the employee stepped outside and watched him walk towards the Texas Theater. This is a movie theater. and he watched the man enter without paying. So then he walked up to the cashier and was like, hey, you need to call the police. You've got a suspicious guy in this movie theater. I watched him go in. So then officers arrived to the scene. Officer McDonald approached the man in the movie theater and yelled, get on your feet. The man, who was Oswald, let's be clear, it was Oswald, then jumped up, said, this is it, pulled his pistol, and went to shoot Officer McDonald.
Oh, damn.
But at the last second, Officer McDonald reached for the gun, and the webbing between his thumb and his index finger blocked the trigger from actually, engaging.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so he was not shot. Because he's trying to kill a second officer.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just had a thought, and I don't know if you get into this later, but it sounds like someone who is trying to get caught and cause as much damage as possible, and or the first thing that popped into my head is he wants to commit suicide by cop. I don't know if that's what's happening, but
that is a good theory. It doesn't match up with what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But it is very weird that he is just shooting cops.
And it's on a rampage.
Yeah. Yeah, because now he's shot a cop. He's tried to shoot a second cop. And the police department are pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Because you shot their own. Okay, so then he got roughed up. Pretty bad. Mm-hmm. But, he was fine. He just, he did have a black eye. But Oswald was brought into the police station around 2 p.m. on November 22nd. That is the day of the assassination. Immediately was taken to the third floor homicide and robbery bureau and awaited for the arrival of Captain Fritz, who was coming from the depository. So, who is Lee Harvey Oswald? Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive and kind of see who he is as a person. So, in his youth, he had actually been placed in juvenile detention at the age of 12 for truancy, during which he was assigned a psychiatrist, and he was assessed to be emotionally disturbed due to lack of normal family life. And from what I could gather, his mother dropped him and his two other siblings off in an orphanage and just left them there to be raised.
Oh, wow.
And she was in their lives later in life, which is strange, but okay. If you can rekindle that, cool. So when he was 17, he joined the Marines. Oswald was court-martialed twice while in the Marines and then jailed. And he was then honorably discharged from active duty in the Marine Corps and put into the Marine Corps Reserve.
That's very surprising that he was honorably discharged after being court-martialed twice.
It is weird, isn't it?
That is weird, because I feel like one court-martial should result in a dishonorable discharge, you would think.
But he had two, was jailed, and then was honorably released.
That's super strange.
So then, he flew to Europe and defected to the Soviet Union in October of 1959.
Okay.
Oswald then married a Russian-born woman named Marina, and while he was renouncing his citizenship. So he married a Russian woman, and in June of 1962, so just a year before the assassination, he returned to the United States with his wife, and they had one daughter at the time, and now they had a second daughter was born. So she had, during all of this, I think it was, their kids were probably 3 and maybe a couple months old.
Gotcha.
At the time.
Okay.
So, during this time, the Kennedys returned back to D.C. So, at Parkland Hospital, the press room was established upstairs where he was officially pronounced dead to the public. And at 2:04, they take his body and put it in a hearse to be taken to Air Force One. And
this is this still in Texas, or are they in DC?
This is still in Texas.
Okay.
This is still in Texas, yes. So, Jackie, this is heartbreaking. Jackie insisted on riding in the back of the hearse. So her and her Secret Service guard rode in the back. Aww. And I wrote, "I'm crying." Yeah. I was in the coffee shop. It was so sad. So they were then loaded onto Air Force One. Jackie boarded the plane and was still covered in blood. So they swore Lyndon B. Johnson in on the plane on Air Force One. And they asked Jackie if she wanted to stand with him. And she said, "Yes, please, just give me a couple minutes to kind of gather myself. And
absolutely.
I'll be out there."
Oh my God.
Absolutely. They gave her like 10 minutes in the back. She came out still covered in blood.
Honestly, I cannot fathom probably a more traumatizing thing to happen to somebody.
No. And the strength that she is showing through all of this, yeah. I know she was probably still in a bit of shock. She was sad, heartbroken. She just lost her husband in the most traumatic way possible. And Johnson asked, he said, "Hey, do you want to go change clothes real quick?" And she responded, quote, "No, let them see what they have done."
Oh, God. Whew.
Uh-huh. Let them see what they have done.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So they ended up having to pull funeral procession documents from Lincoln to figure out what the hell to do.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do in this situation?
Because I think you said last week he was the last successful. No, there was a couple after Lincoln that were successful.
A few. There for a while, being the president was risky business.
Yeah.
Up until like the mid 1800s, I think. They were dropping pretty quickly, and then they put a stop to that somehow. There had been a couple of attempts, but it had been like 100 years almost since the last assassination or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they, Lyndon B. Johnson sworn in, and they are on their way back to D.C. All the stations showed the funeral, would end up showing the funeral, and pretty much almost all dignitaries from other countries attended the funeral. I mean, there were like 2, and it was like China and
wow,
another country that they were having beef with at the time. But anyway, so let's go back to Oswald. And I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible, but like, no one ever talks about his time leading up to what happened to him. And it's a lot of back and forth. So at 2:25, Lee Harvey Oswald was interrogated. Remember, he'd only been there for like 30 minutes at that point. And he kept saying he didn't shoot anyone, which, of course you're going to say that. And he kept saying he was being tried without legal representation. And you'll see this happening. He kept saying he was a patsy, which is like just a word they use.
Like, it's like a fall guy. Yeah.
It's a fall guy. It's a scapegoat. He kept saying, I'm just a patsy. I don't have any legal representation. I didn't shoot anyone. And, okay, so that was at 2:30. At 4:45 that night, he was taken to the basement for his first lineup. And it was during this time that he was searched, and they found 5 cartridges along with other small items in his pockets. Around 4:20, he was taken back up to Fritz's office for further questioning. At 6:20, he was taken back downstairs for a second lineup, returned back to the office within 15 minutes. At 7 p.m. that night, Fritz signed a complaint that charged Oswald with the murder of Tippit. Oswald was informed of these charges by 7:10 p.m. that night. At 7:40, there was a third lineup, and then he returned back to Fritz's office. He's just going up and down those stairs. My God. And then at 11:26 p.m., Fritz signed the complaint on the charges of the murder of JFK.
Oh, shit.
So that was that night, the 22nd. Shortly after midnight, he was taken to the basement assembly room for the appearance for the press. At 12:20, I would like to say that the shortly after midnight when he was taken, appearance for the press, I watched a short video of that, and he kept telling the people, he's like, I have been charged for the murder of the police officer. No one's told me. They're like, oh, well, you've been charged for the murder of JFK. And he's like, no one has told me that. No one's told him that. So at 12:20, Oswald was delivered to a jailer who placed him in a maximum security cell on the 5th floor of this jail. So this is shortly after midnight. At 1:30, so go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you get into how they made, like, the jump from him shooting that police officer to shooting JFK? Like, is there any records about what happened, what the party said, like, why he was charged with that?
Not really. Nothing. I didn't find anything about the interrogations because he would have more. I didn't see anything. I mean, maybe if I went deep dive, took 6 months and went to the National Archives and stuff, I might be able to find some of that. But I couldn't find anything where Oswald even would have a motive per se. So whatever was said in those rooms apparently gave Captain Fritz, the go ahead for him being charged.
Okay. I was just wondering because I listen to a lot of true crime, and there have been several cases where a horrific crime happens and the police have a preconceived notion about who they think committed the crime without a lot of evidence to support their suspect. So that's why I was just like, he's gone down in history as being the person to do it. I just wasn't sure if they had any actual evidence to support that.
I didn't find anything.
Okay.
Other than he kept saying, I'm being jailed just because I lived in the Soviet Union for a while. I'm a patsy. I didn't shoot the president. And I mean, he very well could have been lying. Of course he could.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he also, we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to.
Okay.
So at around 1:30 in the morning, Oswald was taken to the Identification Bureau on the 4th floor and was informed he was being charged for the JFK murder. So they waited 2 hours to tell him that he was even being charged. So the questioning resumed around 10:25 the next morning for about an hour and 10 minutes. Then he was taken back to his cell. So I don't know why they're doing so many little interrogations. Is that normal?
I know interrogations can last a long time. I don't know if they broke it up to like give him a break. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Or they're just rolling with the punches.
Or they're like trying to I know they'll, like, interrogators engage in a lot of different psychological tactics to try to get someone to, like, be paranoid and freak out and stuff. So, I don't know.
I mean, maybe. That's what I was kind of getting the vibe is that they were just kind of bullying him. And, I mean, the man's barely gotten any rest. So, at, like I said, 12:35, he was taken back to Fritz's office for more questioning. And now we are into the 23rd of November.
The 23rd or the 24th?
23rd.
Okay.
It's only been, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he came in at 2 p.m. on the 22nd.
Okay.
He has spent
that whole night.
One night. It's just been a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
So, at 1:20 to 1:30 p.m., Oswald's wife and mother visited him on the 4th floor. At 1:40 p.m. on the 23rd, he attempted to call his attorney. He would never have any legal representation. That's icky, isn't it?
It is, because that is one of his rights.
Immediately, he should have had legal representation
from
the beginning when he telling us he wanted it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, as far as like the Miranda rights go, I don't know how it goes with like the state providing you an attorney if you haven't been officially charged yet, if you're just a suspect. I think they will give you one if you are brought on charges, but I don't know, or if you're being like arrested and like they know that, you know.
Right.
But if you're just like being questioned, I don't know if you have a right to an attorney, but I don't know if one will be provided to you. Well,
and at this point,
he's
has
been
charged. 2 charges. Yeah, he has been.
Yeah.
So he should have been able to get his lawyer, his attorney there.
And that's what makes me think they're wanting to find the killer.
It is fishy. Yeah. It's weird. And so at 2:15 p.m., the day after the assassination, there was another lineup. 2:45, they took fingernail scrapings and hair specimens with Oswald's consent. At 3:30, he had a 10-minute visit from his brother, Robert, on the 4th floor. At 4 to 4:30 p.m., he made 2 phone calls to Miss Ruth Payne at her home. So this was the woman, and I don't know if we talked about, I think we talked about it last week. Miss Ruth Payne was the woman that his wife and children had been staying with.
Okay, I'm not sure if we talked about it, but I don't remember if we did or not, but
cannot remember if I mentioned it last time because I've been immersed in this for weeks at this point. I almost but the 2 of them, his wife and him, had been separated, and I might actually get into it a little later. So they had been separated, and she and the 2 children were living with a friend, Miss Payne. So he called twice to Miss Payne's, I guess, to speak with his wife. So at 5:30 p.m., he was visited by the president of the Dallas Bar Association. Between 6 and 7:15, he was interrogated again by Fritz and then was returned to his cell. 8 p.m., he called the Payne residence again, wanting to speak to his wife, but she wasn't there. 9:30 a.m. the next morning, this is the 24th.
Okay.
He was taken to Fritz's office and was signed out of the jail. The transfer party left around 11:15 that evening for him to go to that evening. I'm sorry, 11:15 that morning for him to go to a higher security facility.
Okay.
And from an interview I saw during this time with the officers, they said this is normal procedure. Typically, we keep people in the jail for roughly 24 hours, and then we send them to somewhere higher security if they're charged and such.
Mm-hmm.
So at 11:21, he was shot pretty much just point blank in the chest on live television.
Are you serious?
Yep. And was later pronounced dead at the exact same hospital that JFK was.
Really?
Yes. He was murdered on live television.
Was it during the transfer?
Yes. So the transfer party left around 11:15 and he was shot at 11:21.
Was he in a car? Was he walking on the street? What?
He was walking, get this shit. Pull out my evidence. Sorry if y'all hear a lot of page crinkling.
She's got her newspaper.
I'm about to tack it on the wall, put a lot of strings up.
She's becoming Charlie Day in that meme. That was me during Watergate, and now that's you during the JFK assassination.
Exactly. Did you see that TikTok I made earlier?
I did. I very much related with it.
I giggled. Okay, so as you can see, tell me if you can see this. This is him actively getting shot.
Are you serious?
Yeah, the guy just walks up and shoots him.
And the
on live television.
I assume that's a police officer, and he's just like, whoa. Not even trying to stop him. What the hell? So
we know who the killer is.
Okay, I just gotta process that for a moment.
Yes. Please process.
My entire life, as soon as I became cognizant of the JFK assassination, we were all told that Lee Harvey Oswald did this definitively. But he never even went to trial for the murder.
He never had any legal representation. He never had a trial. He was only convicted of the murder of Tippit and the murder of he was charged of the murder of Tippit and JFK, and then
murdered 2 days later.
2 days later.
Oh my God.
In the custody of officers.
Of police.
He's just walking out of the police station and somebody is able to walk up and shoot him point blank.
Okay, you have to tell me who the killer was.
His name is Jack Ruby. He was tried and convicted of murder with malice.
Okay.
And apparently he did it to show that Jews have guts.
What?
And that nobody else was going to do it, so he was going to do it. But
was Lee Harvey Oswald an anti-Semite or something?
I don't think so. I don't know. But listen, I don't have time to get into Jack Ruby. There are so many weird things, like the fact that Jack Ruby was an informant for the CIA, but
that is weird.
But I don't think he actually said that, because this says, if indeed Ruby made such a statement, it was made out of the presence of his attorney. So there's no documentation of him ever saying that. And it seems like he was being a patsy. He was, also a fall guy, because Ruby was given the death penalty, but it was later overturned because one of the people that testified, for whatever reason, and I, again, don't have time to get into it, shouldn't have been allowed to. It was brought up during the trials that, hey, this guy shouldn't be on this or whatever. He should not be testifying. It's not a credible something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He got the death penalty, and then it was later overturned, so he got off scot-free.
Wait. So you said that they overturned the death penalty, but did they overturn all the charges?
I guess so.
Because,
he just went on back to work and retired.
Was it a mistrial? Well,
I guess so.
Because that's the only...
He just got... Yeah.
Or acquitted? Because, I've heard of cases where they overturn a death penalty for life in prison. But if he was, acquitted because of one unreliable witness, even though people saw him murder Lee Harvey Oswald at point blank range...
on live television.
That's...
Ruby was given the death penalty after being found guilty on the strength of Sergeant Dean's testimony. The conviction and sentence were overturned by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals on the basis that Dean's testimony should not have been allowed and that Judge Brown should have ordered a change of venue. I don't know why a change of venue.
Maybe if there was like a biased jury.
Yeah.
Which a biased jury could happen if they were all people who saw the murder on live TV. So yeah. I understand like why his attorney would want a change of venue. So it could be a fair trial. Even though it happened on live television, there still has to be a fair trial. This is so weird.
It's so weird. And it says here that Ruby died of cancer in 1967 before being retired. So the way it reads, he went back to work. He just...
For being retired.
I know. I don't know why it was like that.
That's a weird phrase, because being retired makes it sound like he's gonna be put out, you know?
I know! We gotta put the old girl down.
Yeah. What the hell is happening?
I know. And I said here, there are things off about this entire trial, but we don't have time to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that the man that killed Oswald did not,
he was acquitted, essentially, if the conviction was overturned.
Right. So, Kennedy's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oswald's dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end, right? That's it.
No.
We're done. Case fucking closed. Okay. Okay, so no. So, with this being such a high-level case and all the fuckery that went along with it, of course, there would be a huge investigation. Of course. So, we have the Warren Commission. And this was put together immediately. And I think they had something like 16 or 18 months to put this together. So they ended up producing a report in 1964.
Okay.
The next year. So this is the most documented crime in U.S. history up to this point. Thousands of documents are gathered for this.
I can imagine.
And I would like to say that what we're going to get into, I'm going to tell you who was in the report, their conclusion, and then we're going to talk about some other stuff. So, many reinvestigations have happened since the Warren report. This was the first big one. And honestly, the most important. It's the soonest to the crime, and this is my opinion, it's the soonest to when the crime happened, so you have the freshest evidence,
mm-hmm.
and it is the one that is going to set the precedence for what the people in America think of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the first one, and in 1976, the United States House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations was established to reinvestigate the assassinations on not only JFK, but also Martin Luther King Jr.
Because, that was the same year.
68.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It was just a couple of years later. Yeah, it was pretty much, it was the same time frame. Mm-hmm. And they were very close.
And wasn't JFK's brother assassinated like the next year or so after?
I don't know.
It was very close. It was like back to back.
Think about it. 90% of the Kennedys were either killed in a plane crash or killed, like assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like we need to do a whole thing on the Kennedy family.
Yeah,
because, my God.
there's another Kennedy that hasn't been brought up who has a very sad story. Yes. I think it was JFK's sister. Maybe. I think it was his sister, but she was lobotomized.
Oh, yeah, that was right. That's right. I think Bobby Kennedy was shot, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, in 1992, and this is how we're going to know a lot of what we know now. In 1992, Congress passed the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act, and I know that's a mouthful, I'm so sorry, which mandated that materials related to JFK's assassination be housed in a single collection in the National Archives and Records Administration, and that all records be publicly disclosed by 2017.
All right.
So, who's on this Warren Commission? We've got Chief Justice Earl Warren. He was the chairman. He was a member of the Supreme Court at the time. We've got Senator Richard B. Russell. He was a senator from Georgia. We've got Senator John Sherman Cooper. Couldn't figure out what area he was from. We've got Representative Hale Boggs of New Orleans, California. My God, did I have a stroke? New Orleans, Louisiana.
Wow. Did you see, did you write, LA for Louisiana and write
I did.
California?
Yeah. It's my brain. Okay. Representative Gerald R. Ford from Michigan, who would later become president.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Mr. Alan W. Dulles. I think it's Dulles.
Or Dulles. If it's Dulles Airport.
Dulles?
That's how it's spelled in, it may be Dulles. I think it's Dulles Airport.
I think they kept saying Dulles.
Oh,
Anyway,
sorry.
If we fuck it up, I'm sorry. But he's one of the CIA top people that JFK had recently fired for doing shit behind his back. It's not suspicious at all.
Sus.
We've got Mr. John J. McCloy, who was an American lawyer, diplomat, banker, and presidential advisor.
Okay.
I don't know at what he was at the time. He might have been all of them. I don't know. We've also got 14 members in the Assistant Council and 12 members of the staff, which I was not going to name off,
Yeah.
26 more names.
Yeah, you don't have to.
So, of course. And President Johnson had them investigate with a team of representatives, and they had the FBI, CIA, and the Secret Service tools at their disposal. They had it all. There was nothing they couldn't get into. So, what was their conclusion? And I'm reading this.
Okay.
Word for word.
Okay.
Now, obviously, their conclusion is pages long. I am only going to tell you the important bit.
Yeah.
They went into, the motorcade's, schedule, how it was supposed to go. I was not reading all that.
Yeah.
So, their conclusion on the shooting. The president's hands moved to his neck, and this was after he was, we're starting after he was shot the first time in the neck area. The president's hands moved to his neck. He appeared to stiffen momentarily and lurch slightly forward in his seat. A bullet had entered the base of the back of his neck, slightly to the right of the spine. It traveled downward and exited from the front of his neck, causing a nick in the left lower portion of the knot in the president's necktie. Before the shooting started, Governor Connolly had been facing towards the crowd to his right. He started to turn towards the left and suddenly felt a blow on his back. The governor had been hit by a bullet which entered at the extreme right side of his back at a point below his right armpit. The bullet traveled through his chest in a downward and forward direction, exited below his right nipple, passed through his right wrist, which had been on his lap, and then caused a wound in his left thigh. The force of the bullet's impact appeared to spin the governor to his right, and Miss Connolly pulled him down into her lap. Another bullet then struck President Kennedy in the rear portion of his head, causing a massive and fatal wound. The president fell to the left into Miss Kennedy's lap. That is what they say happened. Okay, so I know I showed you last week, but please look at the magic bullet's supposed trajectory. Mm-hmm. Also, this, and this is according to the Warren Commission, which is interesting to me already, that they have the doodle, the little drawing, with Connolly's hand up when they said it was in his lap.
Yeah.
That's already a discrepancy right there. They said it had been in his lap.
Yeah, I'm not.
Also, I need you to humor me and scroll down to another little doodle. Mm-hmm. That is how the bullet would have, that is an overview. That is how the bullet would have needed to move for that to be accurate.
My one thing about this, the bottom doodle with the red line.
Yes.
Because it's very squiggly for our audience members. There's no way a bullet can curve midair and make it like an S shape.
No.
So, but the Warren Commission did say that he had been, like, turned around, right? Like, when the bullet, like, went through, like, was he, like, turned around? And, like, if he was leaning a certain way, could it have gone, like, straight from Kennedy to him? But based on, like, because this picture is having them sitting straight up, straight forward, not accounting, like, looking anywhere, or turning their body in any specific direction.
According to the Zapruter film, if I'm remembering that trauma correctly, Connolly had been facing to the right and waving, but it wasn't a very dramatic turn. Mm-hmm. Kennedy was actually, I think he was sitting more straight up and looking out. I don't think he had his head turned to the right.
I was just thinking about like shoulder and like torso position, because even like this, like even if, I don't know if he was like maybe leaning a certain way, but like if looking at this, if like the bottom one, if Kennedy's body had been like slightly to the right, like turned slightly to the right, and then Connolly's body was slightly to the right, I can see that being more of a straight line. Do you see what I mean?
Hold on.
Which may like debunk like that theory, but like there's no way a bullet can make that movement. It's physically impossible.
No. And it looks like I can't pinpoint exactly without watching it again.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, so it was frame, I think it was like 308 Zapruter film. I told you I watched this thing too many times. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was too far.
Oh no.
So let's try 305. No, trauma. I'm trying to get one that...
I apologize for having to relive this to satisfy my
It's okay.
My questions.
I'm kind of numb to it now, honestly. 298 maybe. No, that's just Jackie on the back. I think he was looking straight and Connolly was turning in.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Mm-hmm.
they still don't line up.
And has it been, like, proven that it's the same bullet? Like, it wasn't, like, a mysterious, like, other bullet? Like, it's definitely the same.
There's so much fuckery that goes on with the bullets. We're gonna get into the bullets.
Okay.
Bullets. Multiple. I mean, and I'm gonna do this as best as I can.
Yeah. Because also looking at this bottom image, it would make more sense for it to just be two separate bullets completely. Because, again, like, this is not physically possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that is what the Warren Commission said happened that day. And to find out all the discrepancies with that, you're going to have to come back next week.
Oh, no! Son of a bitch.
Our first 3-parter. Okay, I know I said last week that it was going to be a 2-parter, but this one just, she snuck up on us. This was a big one, and to prevent it from being 3 hours long, we're going to split it up into more manageable size bites. So you get me as a host for 3 weeks out of May. Hope you're ready for that. And yeah, so we'll tell you more about findings next week.
Oh boy. Well, I for one cannot wait because oh my god.
Things are already not lining up.
This thing has me fucked up, honestly.
This fucking topic has had me in a chokehold for a month. I have been sleeping, and breathing JFK assassination theories for a month. So, I'm going to be ready to get this one out of my system, I think.
I do not blame you one bit, because this sounds like a lot to have to, like, keep in.
It is. I think Nick thinks that I'm going crazy. And he's like, oh my God, who did I marry? And I'm like, apparently a crazy lady. So sorry about that.
Well, and I know when I did Watergate, like, it was really hard for me to get out of that world until I finished talking about it. I can't imagine what it's been like for a month of JFK assassination and the bonkers bullshit that happened afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely had a conversation with the guy at the coffee shop, one of the owners. It's a married couple that owns it. And he was like watching me read my magazine. And he's like, I'm about to start reading over your shoulder. And I was like, please come and sit down and talk to me about it. Oh my God. Please, I need to get this off my chest.
That's so funny.
And we talked briefly about it, but nothing too in depth.
Nothing like this.
I wasn't satisfied. No. I'm gonna go in there on Friday and be like, I got it out.
I was able to talk about it. Listen to the podcast.
Oh my God, please. Might give them some free stickers just for putting up with my crazy ass sitting in their coffee shop.
There you go.
Looking like a weirdo. So, let's get these probably very upset with us listeners
hey,
off.
Not me. It's all you.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was not my intent. I got too into it.
It's fine. I forgive you.
Thanks. Let's just hope the listeners do. So let's get through our socials, let them go, and we'll see them next week.
Yes.
Okay. So you can find us on Facebook.
Ill-Equipped History Podcast group and page. I'm getting a lot better at that.
You are. I'm so proud of you.
You said TikTok, right?
I did say TikTok.
At Ill-Equipped History.
Instagram.
At Ill-Equipped History.
A Gmail.
Ill-equippedhistory@gmail.com.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/Ill-Equippedhistory, where for $5 a month you get access to our bonus content and our stickers.
And we have a wacky wacky one this month. So if you haven't checked that one out, you should go check it out.
Yeah, it's got a goose on it.
It's a goose. Okay, so if you're doing an investigation on a presidential assassination, be better about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any last words?
No, I'm still processing.
That's fair.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.